We're just showing the guys here a live demo of how to use your snipers and adjust your camber ready for qualifying. We're just adjusting the kart. This one had a little bit too much positive camber and we're just going to reduce that because we're going to set up for new tyres. Why we do this is the new tyres are stickier. So as you go into the corner, the kart wants to rotate quicker and we need to resist that a little bit. Otherwise we're going to oversteer everywhere. We're going to go slow. We're not going to go any faster. And the beauty of a new tyre is it's way stickier. Stickier is good. It means you can go faster through the corners. If you go the same speed into the corner, you'll either get the same lap time or slower because the tyres are stickier. So you need to go, wow, these tyres are sticky, thanks Des. And then start sending it in the corner. Now what happens is when you send it into the corner and the tyre's stickier, you get more roll, right? The tyre's stuck to the ground and saying, sorry, I'm going that way. It's not going to resist, it's just going to steer that direction. And we need to resist that because with that extra corner load, the kart wants to roll even more. And that's why we're leaning the tyre in at the top. Negative camber, because we've got a tyre that's going to hold the corner. So we just want to resist that initial steer. Because if we have it sort of neutral or positive camber like this, right, if we lean it out, mate, you're going to be sideways by the apex and slow. You're not going to be able to roll it in hot. And you're not going to be able to roll through the corner fast. And that's what we need to do on these new tyres. So we've already done a preliminary measurement and we know that this side tyre rod was a little bit too short. I'm going to make it longer. Can you just put that over there? Thanks. So I'm using inches here today to confuse everybody. But if we go to full lock, you can watch that laser go down the ruler and then it comes back up. And over here we're on, just so you can see, the second big line after the 1 inch. Right in between those. Now I'm using full lock. We used to use the peak of the laser, but it's hard to balance the tie rods there. So now I just go full lock and let the tie rods rest on the steering column lightly. Make a mental note of it. You can use a texter and you can mark your ruler. And then we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing.
And this is to check your tie rod measurement?
Yeah, this is just to make sure that your tie rods are the same length. So when you turn the steering wheel, 10 degrees is 10 degrees both ways. It's not 8 degrees and 12 degrees. So the driver's got the same feeling on the kart. You can drive around this. You can drive with bent stub axles. You can drive with bent tie rods. Mate, I've seen guys do track records with a bent steering column and a stub axle at 90 degrees because they're pissed off. So all the speed comes from the drivers. But if we can make it easier for the driver to drive the kart fast, we're going to do that. And this is why we do these things and we fuss over it. It's just to make it easy. It doesn't make you faster. The speed comes from you, right? So you've always got to drive faster if you can. Now, on the other side, we've already checked for maximum sort of tie rod length, and now we're going to check this side. And if we have a look over here, you can see that we're on the inch and the first big line here. You can use millimeters too. Sometimes it's a little harder. I'm a bit old and I can't see so well. You could use the 0.5 millimeters if you want to get super crazy and you do have good eyes, but I don't, so I'm just using these big dogs. And I can see that that's the point I'm trying to get to. So I'm going to adjust the other side because I know I've got too much toe out and I want to reduce it. I want to make these tie rods longer, so point my wheels inboard a bit. So I've got the 10 and the 13 millimeter spanner, and all I'm going to do is crack off this tie rod. Now you guys following along so far? Yep. It's not too complex?
Yep. Should get them to do the other side.
Yeah, there you go. So pay attention, turners, you are on. So we've got our steering set. We're going to use one dot of toe out. That side should be set. I've just got to adjust this side. And I'm going to put some toe in. So I've turned the tie rod out and I've got the laser back on the dot where I want it. So that's just the toe. And I'm just going to check to see. It doesn't matter if the steering wheel moves, Nikki. You can lock them up. But I have a tendency just to swing it all around and just see how it moves dynamically. And then if it moves like this, oh, no problem, just move it back. You've got a reference point here, the laser. You can double check that your bubbles are on 0. It's no different to when you, like when you put the lasers on the first time, you got to zero them. So it's no different if they move. Yeah, it's no factor. Don't be too alarmed. And then we just want to check this side. Remember we said we had the inch and the line. So if we go here, now you can see that that is on the inch, the 1 inch and the line, righto? So that tie rod and that tie rod are pretty much balanced, and we have the right amount of toe out that I'm looking for. If I wanted more toe out or more toe in, now that they're the same length, I'd have to adjust them both at the same time to keep them the same.
Yep.
So I can lock this guy off. Put both rose joints down in the same direction. So on this one, we've got a left-hand thread and a right-hand thread. This one's going to do up this way. Oh, sorry, other way around. This one's going to do up that way, and this one's going to do up the same way because it's a left-hand thread, that's a right-hand thread. So angle both rose joints up on this side and both rose joints down on the other side because it's reverse. Oh, look, some guys can, you know, cock one up this way and one down that way, and what happens is you'll get a bit of bind when you move the steering wheel because the rose joint will get locked in and versing the other one. So just make sure they're in the same direction. You can lock the steering column if it's giving you a, like if you're chasing your tail a lot, you can lock it up here on this arrow. Otherwise, I just do it freehand. I think practice is the key. If you do this at home, you know, a few times and you get your head around how the kingpin swings through its arc, like it's not complex once you do it a few times, but the guys go, oh geez, I don't really know what's happening. So they just do nothing. So one of the biggest mistakes is doing nothing. The best thing you can do is practice. Practice at home when there's no pressure so that when you get to the track, you can do this, you know, you can teach me how to do it. That's kind of the goal. All right? Oh, next time I go to the track, I'm going to teach Des a thing or two about wheel alignments and I'll be impressed. Yeah, double up or double down depending on the side, and then to check it, you should have free range of movement. If one was locked up and one was down, you wouldn't be able to rotate your tie rod like this. All right, so we've got our tie rods the same length. We've got our toe out set now at sort of 0.5 millimetre, 1 dot per side. This is our qualifying spec. Now, this one has moved to some degree yesterday. I'm just going to move it back into line. We've got 1 dot of negative camber, and I want, say, 2 lines worth. And to do that, I'm just going to rotate the sort of the, I don't know what they call this, but I call it the dot, which is sort of reference point for the caster adjuster. It means the eccentric part of the caster pill is in this plane. Right, so it's just a reference point, that dot. And as I swing the dot outwards, I get more negative camber on this cart. If I swing it more inboard, the kingpin will go outboard and I'll get more positive camber. So if you can't picture this or you don't know what I'm talking about, just on your go-kart, start swinging the kingpin around. You can loosen this bolt off. Some go-karts are a little bit stiffer than others. So if I couldn't move this with the spanner, I'd have to loosen that bolt off. But as I'm doing this, you can see that the laser's moving on the other side. Yeah? And you can see now I'm down on this side at the 2 line mark, and I am on the same on this side. So then I've got 2 boxes of negative camber, which should be enough for this kart, but it's a guess because the driver is new. We're just going to send him out. This is what we call the qualifying spec, where we've just increased the negative camber a little bit. We're going to reduce the front track width from, here was at 15, down to 10 millimeters. And then we're going to increase the rear track width by 2 millimeters a side, just to settle the kart down on the new tyres. You don't have to do that. It's just what we find works for a lot of guys like Zach and Uncle Mitch and Johnsy. We do this all the time. Because if we just go out for the last session on Friday or Saturday, go, oh man, that car is an absolute peach, and throw new bags on it. We're going to go out for qualifying when the track's in better condition, with the new tyres that are in better condition, and the car's just going to have a tendency to oversteer. Just a little bit too long to go full noise into those corners, full send mode, and put it on pole position. We're going to be back in 5th. We don't want 5th, we want 1st. So always work on your qualifying setups. Then don't forget about it, that you're going to change it back to your race setups as the day progresses. So there's small evolutions in the kart all day. We start with qualifying spec, and then we've got our sheet that we've downloaded from the Ultimate Kart Academy, and we're filling out the sheet, we're populating that sheet with our qualifying setups, our race setups for heat 1, heat 2 and the final, because they're always different because the tyres degrade as the day goes on. And that's why we run through simulations with our new tyres on practice days. Now that we've done our caster, the last thing you can check, we've set our tie rods, we've set our negative camber how we want it. Now we're going to use the ruler again to check to make sure we've got the same amount of caster on the cart. So the kingpin leans backwards or forwards depending on the orientation of your caster pills. So if you can have your standard caster, you can move the dot on the bottom forwards, to the back, and that will bring the kingpin forwards, so that gives you maximum caster. You can flip it around, puts it back in standard. This go-kart, it's got the dot at the back, so we've stood the kingpin up. So we've got minimum caster. That wheel is going to rotate around center a little bit more. Think of a door with broken hinges. Broken hinges, when you open the door, it drags in the ground. That's what happens on the go-kart to some degree. As you break the hinges more and more, you're increasing the caster. When you turn the wheel, this outside tyre pulls down into the ground more, giving you more twist through the kart, giving you more jack. Right, so if the kart's not jacking, you increase the caster. If the kart's jacking too much, like you're getting these crazy amounts of lift, you can see the go-kart with the inside back wheel this high off the ground, you've got too much twist in the kart because you're too big a driver, the track's too grippy, or generally you've got too much caster in it. So stand that kingpin up, get it closer to center and take some of the twist out of the frame. That's what I do. And the way to check to make sure you got the same amount of twist through the kart left and right is using a ruler and swinging the sub axles through their range of motion. So we've got the camber all set and the toe out, and we're just going to swing the steering to the left, right, and it's at 9, 1 line and a half. Can you see that? Yep. Yeah? Yep. So then we swing it the other way, and we're at 9, 2 and a half. So we've got a variation in our caster across the kart. That can be one of two things. I just cranked the top caster pill here to get the camber right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing that back. I'm going to reduce it over there and increase it on the bottom because we've had some movement yesterday, and I dare say the bottom one that I didn't look at has actually moved. So I'm going to move the top one back to its standard position, adjust the bottom one and see if we can get this measurement the same across the kart, just to make it easy for Nathan. Otherwise, I can see there's a telltale sign here on this go-kart that stub axle has been in an accident and it's come through the chassis here. If that's the case, there's a good chance this C-section could have a bit of a bend in it, and that's changing the caster or the geometry of the kart. We can fix that at some stage later on, but not here today. The only way we can fix that is just change the orientation of the two caster pills to get it close enough. Yeah, so on this kart, we've got a caster pill on the top and on the bottom. I adjusted the top one, and you can see the dot is outboard here, but it's dead center there. So I've increased the orientation of this sort of to the 8 o'clock position, whereas this one's more at the 6 to, we've probably got about a variation about that much across the kart. Yep. So I'm going to bring this guy back, and it's going to wreck my negative camber, but it'll fix my caster. So my orientation is roughly the same now on the top pill, and I'm going to adjust the bottom pill to get my negative camber. On a Tony kart, you would have to undo your screws and rotate your caster pills the same way. Same on your BC kart over there. You got the little screw there. It's a great idea. On a Parallel kart or a Kart Republic, you've got an adjustment screw here for the caster. So if you do have a crash, you can get them back even across the kart quite easily. And then to adjust your camber, they have a little eccentric pill here inside the caster adjuster. They're two sort of separate entities. You can move it forward and backward, and then you can rotate it as well, whereas these guys do both at the same time. Now that we've got the negative camber set on the go-kart, how we want it, it's probably increased the toe out a bit, which we can fix at the end. But for the interest of this exercise, we've got the same negative camber both sides now. I just want to check and make sure we got the swing the same. Otherwise we've got a bent go-kart and we'd have to fix it during the week. Put your ruler back on the cart. Still at 9 inches and 1 whatever that is. We can see that, everybody?
Yeah.
You can use a texter to mark it if you can't remember, and then we just go this way. Okay? So we're about a half a box out there. That's going to be close enough for this exercise. If we go to the center line of the cart, which would be about there, you can see that it is 9.5, right? Because I was probably a little bit out of the center line. If I swing it back this way, very close, righto? So now we've got the same negative camber, we've got the same toe out, we've got the same length of tie rod, and we should have very similar casters. So when he drives this car, if he goes out on old tyres, it'll understeer, that's okay. But if he goes out on these new tyres, it should just be absolutely perfect. The tyres are stickier, we've set the camber a little bit of negative, we've reduced the caster a bit so it doesn't have too much jack, because the tyres are going to do the work because they're brand new. And that's what I recommend. If you're running brand new tyres, do these couple little changes. It'll make driving it deep into the corner just so much easier. Now the trick is, for most new guys that don't know new tyre technique, you want to do this exercise 3 times in one day. So you put new tyres on, do 20 laps. Do a second batch of new tyres, do another 20 laps. Do a third batch of tyres, another 20 laps. And then you can do whatever you want for the rest of the day. But in your mind, you're starting to work out in the first session how deep you can go on that new tyre. Then you put another new set on and go, oh yeah, it's still fresh. You can go even harder and go even deeper. You film it, you write notes so that you've got it to refer back to later on, because not everyone gets 3 sets of tyres in a day. So it might only happen once a year. So if that happens, write it down, try to absorb as much of that new knowledge as you can for the day, and then you can play it back to yourself. Otherwise you're going to have to buy tyres all the time to get really good on new tyres, because qualifying and new tyre running is critical. Righto? If you can run fast on new tyres, you'll always qualify at the front, and there's better guys to race with, there's more respect, and there's less crashing. Once you get deep in the pack, you get the concertina effect at the start, especially in the sort of kids categories like KA3 Junior, and there's always pile-ups. It's way better to be out in front winning than in the middle of the pack crashing. And that's it. Tyre pressures, we're going to go a little bit higher because it's the cooler part of the day, it's the morning. We're going to start with 10 pounds in the rear and 11 everywhere else, whereas yesterday we were running 9 pound in the rear working tyre on this track, sorry, over here on the engine side, and 9 and 10, whereas today we're going to be 10 and 11. That's pretty easy, isn't it? Yep. Now let's go stick it on pole position. What do you reckon? Yep. Now, someone's got to have a question about wheel on it. First up, Big Jace, what's your first question?
Oh, it's just me learning the positive and negative camber and how
Yep. Positives outboard, negatives inboard. Nikki?
Caster, how does that affect handling?
The caster, okay, so as you lean the kingpin back, it creates twist and jack. As you stand the kingpin up, reduce your caster, it reduces the jack and the twist through the cart.
And how do we change that again?
That's just swinging this guy. See how the dot's at the back? If you put the dot at the front, you've increased the caster. Right, you've brought the kingpin backwards. I'll show you on your cart.
And that gives us more twist.
Give you more twist, more jack, more lift. Make the cart steer faster. Make the steering a little bit heavier. The system we got here, we've reduced the caster because there's a fair bit built into the cart. The tyres are sticky and this track is high Gs. We don't need a lot of caster here, so we've reduced it. If you went to a crappy, small, little slippery circuit like Lismore, middle of winter, okay, you're not going to get the jack. There's no rubber grip, the tyres are cold, the track's slippery, there's no grip in the surface. That's when we're going to start increasing our caster. We're going to put the kingpins all the way back, try to get some jack, twist, generate some heat. But up here we don't need heat. Heat's the enemy. It's the middle of summer, it's Warwick, it's hot, sticky, the track's in good condition. We're going to reduce our caster. So hot and sticky tyres, reduce caster. Hard tyres, cold and slippery, increase caster as a rule of thumb. Okay, it is a little bit preferential. Generally speaking, from what I feel, is when I put the bar in, it's better in very fast corners. It gives you stability, fast sort of combination corners, example being Toowoomba turn 1, turn 2, right? That's bar in is good for that. If you go up the top of track at Toowoomba where you've got slow switchback corners, the bar doesn't help so much there. It makes the kart want to sort of push wide and it's hard to get through that critical corner onto the straight because it's a slow speed corner. So as a general rule of thumb, bar out for slow corners, bar in for high speed corners. If you've got high speed critical corners at your track, maybe you leave your bar in and adjust your driving style for the slow corners. Conversely, if you're at a slow twisty turny track with one fast corner, you take your bar out and you adjust your driving for that one fast corner. So you get 9 good corners with the bar out and 1 bad corner. Otherwise, if you've got a lot of high speed corners, you put the bar in for the 9 high speed corners and the 1 slow corner, you drive around it. So it's all about, you know, a 3/10 gain here and a 2/10 loss is a 1/10 up. Or, you know, if you're losing 3/10 and you're only gaining 2/10 back, you're 1/10 down. And when you're chasing those leaders, that's how small the margin is. And you'll see that in your data trace when you become a more consistent driver.
So toe out on twisty tracks and toe in on street tracks.
No, we're talking the bar in. Yeah, bar in, bar out. Toe, when it's cold and slippery, we increase it. When it's hot and sticky and long straights, we decrease it. You want to run the minimum toe on tracks with long straights. You can run maximum toe on wet weather conditions. You can put 6mm toe out. Makes the kart steer it in really good, but it scrubs a lot of speed on the straights. That doesn't matter in the wet because it's not hot, it's not sticky, and you're not going that fast. You're normally putting 3 or 4 teeth on to try to get out of the corners faster. So remember, in the wet you can put a lot of toe out, but here's the opposite of wet. It's hot, it's sunny, it's grippy, it's the middle of summer, no toe out, no caster. Okay, we're standing those kingpins up and we're running negative camber because we've got new tyres.
So what about with the different bars, like the harder bar, stiffer bar?
Yeah, so yeah, if you want more front and more stability, you go to a stiffer bar. Yep. There's no real hard rules like, oh, the bar in's going to make me 5 seconds faster. It's just preferential for the driver. If he doesn't like the feel of the kart, put a bar in. Bigger dudes can put bars in because they need that leverage to try to get the back wheel up off the ground so it doesn't push. When the tyres have worn after, say, qualifying and heat 1, slip your bar back in. Right? If you're a front bar driver, like you've got yours in, I'd say take it out for qualifying or take it out now for the morning practice. And you know, you should be looking for a bit of understeer. You're aiming for the apex ripple strip and it just glazes past. That's perfect because when you put your new tyres on, it's going to go away. But if you leave your kart perfect balance or a little front dominant with old bags and you go to new tyres, you're going to tip it in. It's going to just rotate so quickly on the way into the corner that you can't catch it before you get to the apex. And it's just going to slide counter steer like we saw in the video last night at the apex, and it's going to hurt your overall track speed because you're trying to go the fastest around the whole track. So you've got to take the shortest distance without sliding at all. You can slide in the brake zone only because you're trying to lose speed. But once you're at the apex and you're accelerating out, the kart's got to be dead straight, front to rear, driving forwards as fast as you can. That's how you beat everybody else anyway. If you want to drive sideways, that's cool too, but just don't expect to be the quickest. As soon as you counter rotate the kart, slow. You've lost, and if it's in acceleration zone, you've lost 2/10. So you slide that little bit at the apex, it's barely measurable. But you get down the next acceleration zone, so from the double left over here to the infield hairpin, mate, you've lost 3/10 in that one sector. Like we saw on Johnsy's data last night when we were looking at the data on the computer. He'd make a little boo-boo over there because he went in too hot, slide at the apex, there's a little dip in speed, you're like, oh, no worries. But you times it out by that whole straight section, and it was nearly half a second to Zach when we compared the two drivers. So those little things add up to big things. So get all the little things right, and the big things will take care of themselves. That's front-end setups pretty much. The reason why we have these little discussions is so that you go, oh, okay, you don't have to get it, you're not a computer, I can't program you guys. I can only make you aware of the changes and then go and experience it for yourself. Leave the kart as it is, it doesn't matter. Go out and drive it and just see if the kart oversteers everywhere. You're like, oh yeah, shit, silly old Des was talking about that this morning. Righto, and then you can go back and you know what change to make. That's what it's about. It's building that knowledge, that database in your head So you know that what to look for when you're on the track, and when it happens, problem, solution, outcome, all right? Highlight your problem. That is the most critical thing you can do. Because we can stand around and watch you burn around in circles all day. But until you highlight your problem, I can't apply a solution and we can't measure the outcome. If you go, oh, Des, whenever I go through the double left, it pushes wide. Well, let's take the bar out, Johnny, and let's have a look. You take it out, you go, oh man, it's hooked up down there now. Okay, you now got that knowledge inside you, the feeling in your body and your hands and your arms and your mind. When you're driving through that corner, if I've got a bar in and it's doing X, I apply my Y solution, which is removing the bar, and voila, you've got the right solution. Otherwise, we take it out and it makes it worse. Come Des, give me an uppercut, say that was terrible. But you know, you don't do that for that problem again, right? You just create these little problem solution outcome matrices. We've got one on the Ultimate Kart Academy you can download. You can cross things out and add your own answers. It doesn't matter, as long as it gets you thinking about problem, solution, and outcome. If you can highlight your problem, you can apply a solution. It doesn't have to be the right solution this time, because it can be the right solution next time. So you learn from your mistakes and your wins. Yeah, let's get some. Well, okay, so I want everybody to go out and just blow out the cobwebs, right? We've been asleep, we've had bacon and eggs, we've been doing some PT, but I want everyone to go out and just use their karts as they are, thinking about them. We're going to take these brand new tyres off. We're going to put yesterday's tyres on for the first session, and then we're going to go for a qualifying run. And I want everyone to push as hard as they can in that session. It's windy today, so there'll be some leaves and dirt on the track. That's another reason I want everyone out there just to clean the race line as best we can. So when we get our qualifying simulation, it's as close to a race weekend as possible. That's when we're going to go to our new tyres. Yesterday, loved it. Said the kart was great. What we did was we brought the front wheels in 5mm to 10mm spaces because we were running 15. You can run them as wide as 20. Mitcho, can you chuck us a 22 socket, please, mate? You can run these at 20mm spaces, and if you are doing that, make sure you're running a little bit of negative camber, or if you are running, thanks Mitch, if you are running a lot of negative camber, like you got the top of the wheels turned in, don't go too narrow or you'll run out of leverage. Right, so as a rule of thumb, if you're running a little bit of positive camber, it makes the kart a little bit more reactive, run the kart narrower. If you're running a lot of negative camber, and we do that for high grip tyres, high grip tracks like we're at today, we're going to run the kart a little bit wider so you've got some leverage. The wider you make your front wheel, the more leverage you got. This is basically just like a crowbar, but for the go-kart. When you turn the wheel, it adds twist to the kart, okay? Because this wheel goes down, that wheel goes up, and the kart falls over on itself to keep it in equilibrium. The wider you make these karts, the more twist you put through the frame, and the higher this tyre should lift. So if the kart's sitting flat, put the front wheels out, and it'll start to lift that inside wheel up off the ground. And as soon as if no one knows what I'm talking about, get someone heavy to sit on the back of the seat and put their feet here, and then you push the kart. And with the wheel straight, they're like, oh, yeah, whatever it does, that's a piece of piss. But then you get them to turn the wheel about 10 degrees and get them to push the kart. And it feels like the brakes are locked on. You just physically cannot push it anymore. And what that is the chassis is all bound up because you haven't got the rear wheel off the ground. As soon as that rear wheel comes up, if they kept turning and put like wet weather lock on it, like this, that wheel would come up just enough to unload it, and then you'll feel the kart start to push easy again, and it will turn almost instantly. So the go-karts need to get that wheel off the ground for them to turn any direction. The faster you go, the smaller the angle you need to transfer the load. And the slower you go, the more lock you need to get the wheel off the ground for it to turn. As you add width to the kart, it turns better. Now we've got old tyres here today. I don't want to take the negative camber out because of the nature of the circuit. A tight, twisty track, okay, we're going to add neutral or positive camber. But a fast flowing, high speed corner track like this, and the critical corners are high speed before the big straight sections, we need that neg in so the kart's not too reactive on the way into the corner, but it holds tight from the apex all the way to the exit. So the one thing we're going to do is, for anyone that's got old tyres that wants to make their kart like new again, or newer, pop your wheel nut off. This is like level 1 tuning for go-karts with old tyres. and we're just going to add front wheel spacers. Now Zacho said that this had a bit of understeer, and I know we were flogging it around yesterday, so the tyres are pretty cooked. So I'm going to take the 10 out and add 5. Actually for Zach, I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out a 5 and go straight to the 10, so that he can feel it and go, oh Des, that's too much, and it'll start to oversteer everywhere. So we're going out to 20, which is the maximum I'd go on this particular kart. But the tyres have done easy 100 laps. Normally I would start at 10 for qualifying in heat 1 and go to 15 for heat 2 in the final. Maybe I'd go to 20 for 2 o'clock in the afternoon at Ipswich when it's super sticky. Or I've got 100 plus laps on the tyres. Right, because I want to try to get some leverage back in the kart because we're running out of tyre grip. So we're adding a little bit of twist to the frame to get it to go through the corners. So that's the first step we're going to do. The second thing, yesterday we brought the front wheels in at the front, but we also took them out at the rear. And that's because the tyres are stickier. So we want that stability, so we're going to go through the corners quicker, but also it helps resist oversteer. Right? It helps push the front a little by having it a little wider. Now the tyres are brand new, so that doesn't matter. That's what we want. The front tyres are going to overpower the rear most of the times when we go from old tyres to new tyres. So we're really just trying to combat that when we go to the new tyres. So the first thing you guys can do if you're on old bags is go 5mm wider in the front, or 10mm wider like I'm doing here. It's up to you. You can do it in 2 incremental steps. I know that I'm going to run out of time later on, so I'm just going straight to where I need it for later, and Zach can just put up with it now. I'm sure he'll drive around it. We did it with Johnsy yesterday. I drove Johnsy's kart in the afternoon. He didn't make any changes either because he was busy just being awesome. And we left the kart in qualifying spec. And as soon as I drove it, I would just want to light up the rears. If I drove any harder into the corners, the first thing I felt was oversteer. Okay? So that's one thing I want you guys to focus on when you're driving. Understeer is when you aim for the corner and you drive straight ahead, right? You miss the apex. You miss where you want to go. You're aiming at Frankie and you end up just driving into the outgrid, okay? It's a real pain because you can't really fix a lot of understeer. It happens as the track gets hotter and as your tyres wear. So yeah, what we're doing now is with Johnsy's, it was turning the tyres in the rear. So what I said to him is, hey, we need to bring those rears in because he hadn't changed it from yesterday. So today I'm going to do the same for Zach. I'm going to bring those rears in maybe 2.5 to 3mm per side. So I think we're at 1397. I'll just get the tape measure. So an easy way to do it is just measure your overall track. You can use 2 rulers if you want, or you can just eyeball it over there. So we're at 1395. I'm going to bring it into 1390. And now the reason we do that, the tyres are old and we're starting to light them up on the exits when we're putting the accelerator down. So I'm just going to bring those in a little bit, try to get that kart hopping, get it steer a little bit better on the older tyres. Now if you guys do have a 50mm axle, the easy way to do it is drop your wheel off. Okay, we're not running any wheel spacers. So if you're not running any wheel spacers at all, you can just measure your rear track width and then slide your hub just in 2mm, piece of cake. Do your rear wheel up, come back and measure it, double check your work, and the rear track's moved into 1390. So we just need to adjust the other side and then send it. If it's a bit too narrow, I'll add that little spacer again. But realistically, that's probably enough to go from your old tyre setup to your qualifying setup. Just 2 to 3mm per side in the rear, so 5mm overall. For new tyres, you're going to go out, and for old tyres, you're going to come in at the back and out at the front. And also too, your final is normally at the hottest, grippiest part of the day when you're going to get the most understeer between, say, in here in Queensland, 1 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If it starts to go to 4 or 5 o'clock, you might have to do another change. Like if we're running shorties for the middle part of the day, we'll go back to the standards on the rear. There's a couple of little caveats there, but for the most part, that's what I find is very fair and reasonable. The other thing you can do for the guys that are cranked mega caster into the kart, or mega camber, you can set your snipers up. Because we cranked this up yesterday and it was very good and he loved it for the new tyres, but now the tyres are old and we're just going to back that off just a whisker. So we're not going to go all the way back into positive. just because of the nature of the tyre and the track. The times you would use positive camber is when we're at tight, twisty tracks like Lismore, and we've really cheesy graded the front tyres out, and there's not a lot of grip left in them. That's when we're going to go back to the positive camber. First step, you put your lasers on and level the bubbles off, and just turn your steering wheel so you've got roughly the same toe on both lasers. You don't want one with mega toe out and one with toe in. You just want to just level it off, and on this cart with this setup, we're running about 1 dot worth of toe out, which is about what the maximum I'd recommend on a fast flowing circuit. Tight twisty tracks, add some more toe out. Pouring rain, go your hardest. Stick it at 6mm per side. There's no disadvantage for scrubbing your tyres in the wet. You will travel a little bit slower, but it doesn't matter, okay? So in the wet, you can go mega toe out, high speed, high grip, okay? We were running neutral. You can even run a little bit of toe in. The carts will bump when you sit in them, meaning they bump a little bit of toe in anyway. That's why we have them a little bit set toe out. Once you've got your laser set up, simple, just crack these guys off. Now some carts you can adjust these arrow carts with them tight, other carts you can't. The Tony carts, you've got a little bit of a screw to lock these adjusters in, so you'll have to loosen the nut off, the kingpin, take out the screw, and then you can adjust it one hole at a time. We call it clicks. So we have 2 clicks of neg, which is about 4mm for quali, and we come back a click for heat 2, and we come back another click back to neutral for the final. And then I just use a set of multi grips, grab your adjuster. Now if you're not familiar with what all the caster adjusters do on your cart, just play around with these in your shed, and as you rotate them slowly, if you loosen it right off, you'll be able to see the laser go through its range of motion from all the way from negative camber to neutral, all the way to positive camber. And then if you spin the the caster pill around in circles, you'll be able to watch the kingpin going forwards and backwards, and the sub-axle doing these ones as well. Righto, so it gives you like a bit of a visual of what's happening in the front end. This one here, we're going back to 3mm. Righto, I moved that maybe 5-10 degrees. If I didn't know what I was doing, I'll just do it a few times until I got to the right measurement. Once you've done one side, you can lock that off, go to the other side and do the same. I'm just going to crack this guy off.
So, what you're saying is as the race day progresses, you keep twisting those until you get right.
Closer to neutral. So we've come from, say, 5mm back to 3mm. Alright, and then as the tyres warm more and more, you go back to neutral. But you just got to remember where you're at. If you get this cart dialed in on these old bags, you go, oh man, it feels wicked. You're in trouble when you go new tyres, because you're going to just oversteer everywhere. Because when you go, the new tyres are so sticky, you have to go in those corners hotter, right? You got to brake less, roll faster, and travel through those corners quicker, or your lap time won't even change, it'll go slower. So if you're going to do those things, you're going to brake less because the tyres are sticky. They're going to wash more speed off anyway. You're going to come off them earlier and roll into the corners a little bit quicker. The cart's going to create more lateral load, and it's going to roll on that tyre more. Right, and as it rolls on the tyre, that's what we're doing when we put negative camber in. As we come into the corner, it rolls onto the tyre and you get the contact patches dead straight, and it hooks around. If you've got positive camber, right, you got the top of the wheel outboard, right, so imagine this is the top of the tyre. You go to turn the wheel, it's already got the load on it. It just instantly changes the direction of the cart. You don't want that on high speed corners. You want to counter it so that when you move the steering wheel, the cart rolls and the tyre comes up straight because you've got so much load going through that tyre. And that's all we're doing here. We're just sort of chasing the tyre. If it's got less grip on it, we stand it up. If it's got more grip, we lay it in at the top. Negative camber. Righto? As a tyre wears, you just stand it up. If you're at a slippery track, positive camber. If it's pouring rain, pretty much do whatever you want. But yeah, positive camber and toe out, so the cart steers better. New tyres, high speed, high grip tracks, negative camber. So we've just reduced the negative camber. We've gone from 5mm back to 3mm, and we're going to send it as it is. It should be pretty much good to go.
So over race day, we're talking about changing it 1 click or 2 clicks?
On the Tony car, it's generally 1 click when you got the balance right and the weight, enough weight forward. you'll start with say 2 clicks of neg or 2 boxes from the line, and then you just go back 1. And if you want, it's mega sticky and you got a bit of understeer, you're going to go back 2. Otherwise, you're going to leave it. The last meeting we raced at night time, so we had to adjust the karts, set them for quali spec, and then leave them. Because if we chased the track, chased the tyre, it was too much. Everyone started lighting up the rears too much because the track didn't go away. It got better because the sun went down. So yeah, we get really sun affected here in Queensland, and around 2 o'clock you're going to get some understeer, greasy conditions, and then if you're a real boss, you can change it back for the final. But for now we're all amateurs and we're just learning, and we're just going to keep things mega simple. Righto, so for qualifying we're going to go 5 in from where we were with the old tyres at the front, and 5 out at the rear, so which would be 10 mil at the front, sorry, 5 mil per side, and the rear maybe 3 mil a side, not quite as much. And then we're just going to go 1 extra box of negative in the front. Hopefully we're only around 2 or 3, so we'll go down to 4 or 5 millimeters of negative camber for that new tyre and just send it. Nice and easy. And then when the tyres are old, we're just going to tune it back. Has anyone got any questions? The other thing you can do in the rear, which is you just need to experiment, is changing the hub length. So in the mornings and the evenings we'll run a standard length hub, and then the second heat and third heat in the middle part of the day we run a shorter hub on these 50mm axles just to help free the kart up. That works on Tony karts. It'll work on the Arrow as well. If your kart's hopping a lot, go to a harder axle. If the kart's sitting flat, your axle's too soft. You need to go to a harder axle. The only time you go to a softer axle is if you want the kart to come on a little bit quicker, you're driving a little bit better than what you would normally, and you can run a softer axle without the kart getting stuck off the slow corners. That's the first thing we look for. If the axle grade's too soft, it'll drag the wheel around the track for too long, and it'll start to bog the engine up coming off those slow corners. You should be able to have a pretty neutral setting on your kart like we have been showing you guys, and be pretty balanced. If you've got mega oversteer and you've still got that much negative camber, you've probably got a bit too much weight forward. If you've got chronic understeer and we're having to go to positive camber with new tyres, well then we're probably sitting in the boot too much, we've got too much Larry layback on that seat. I'm going to stand the seat up.